Here we are. Don't go away. Okay, good morning again. We are back with Mirador Television, Affairs from the Heart, for our second period. It is now 9:43. The newspaper headlines this morning are much of a muchness and a bit boring, really, because they're pointing the fingers, yes. But what they are, without identifying the newspapers, really is the one story is the Tory whip, Christopher Pincher, has been dumped because he got drunk and groped a bloke at one of the exclusive clubs in town. I'm really sorry because I know him and I think he's a very hardworking and decent guy. The Guardian, the Daily Telegraph, yes, they're all the same top Tory Daily Mail. Before we get down to the Metro, they deal in the fact that the youngster who murdered the little boy in Wales 2 years ago, and whose name was withheld, has been the embargo has been lifted, and he has been named. I don't know that the name means anything to me. Does it mean anything to you?
Not particularly, but that was a horrible story. So it was a teen. At the time, he was 13 years old, and he murdered his 5-year-old stepbrother. And it says here he came from a pure evil home. His parents, both of them, were abusive as well. He came from a terrible household, as one would guess. 13-year-olds don't just go murder other children without something seriously wrong having gone wrong. And the parents are, I feel like, are mainly to blame. I mean, sure, it was the 13-year-old who did it, but again, he's 13. There's no 13-year-old just does that.
No, quite. The other thing, the other issue that I raised is that once again it slipped by or under the radar of social services, and I think that social services is one of the areas that we need desperately to have looked at and reform. They keep on missing signs, and even those things that don't get to headline stage, it's quite often we find that they are far from shining brightly, as it were, as a star, and they need to be looked at. The other one is okay. The boy plans to cut VAT. Now that might be welcome, depending on how much they decide to cut the VAT. I think VAT is 20%, isn't it?
I think they should cut it by 100%.
Well, they should really, but they're not going to do that.
No.
I mean, in the long run, Max, what we have got to consider is that in COVID, rightly or wrongly, the government dished out money. Yeah, I mean, as if it was going out of style, as if it was Christmas. That money has got to be regenerated. And from the trade figures that have just come out, it's not going to be regenerated that way. So eventually, it has to come back from those people that got it and sent it in tax. Now, we've got full employment, which means that we should get pretty damn good tax returns, except that a lot of people are working from home. And that actually seems to upset the apple cart. But when it comes to the question of VAT, It is 20%, I think, on most things.
Yeah.
There are VAT exempt goods, normally to do with food or education. And the rest is added on, including, as you discovered one day, in a restaurant.
Yeah, only after the fact.
Yeah, and you're quite right. It should be clearly stated whether VAT is included or not. Some people do, some people don't. So essentially, we're going to get a little bit of a reduction in that, which could actually, a small reduction could easily, it could get a substantial amount of
guys,
money.
We're going to treat you by cutting taxes by 8%, a whole 1%.
Well,
I guarantee that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like.
You think so, do you?
Oh yeah. I don't think it's going to be a substantial. Right. It's nowhere near going to be 50%.
Oh no, I wouldn't think so. I would be surprised
even
if it was 5%.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but in the long run, I do feel. I mean, the government does have to find ways of raising money, and taxation is an accepted form
for most people.
The only thing is that it's the percentage that counts. You're quite right. If that was reduced even to 17.5, which I think it was at one stage, it would be a substantial saving in your pocket and mine.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad thing. We must be very careful how critical.
Any cutting tax is a good cutting tax, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right now, this one, I'm going to hand over to you because you understand what the issue is here. Theresa May urges Johnson to ban trans conversion therapy.
Yeah, so this story, a lot of activists have been talking about conversion therapy and that it needs to be banned. The thing is, it was banned decades ago because it was a horrific thing that people had to go through. So conversion therapy is when you take gay people or trans people and try to beat the gay out of them. So it was done by abuse, even electric shock therapy. They would try all sorts of ways, and obviously it didn't work, as one would guess. So that was outlawed decades ago. What people are talking about today with conversion therapy is trans conversion therapy, which they misrepresent entirely as when a trans person wants to transition and cut parts of their body off, it's a big decision. A decision that is life-changing and irreversible. So they have to go through psychiatrists and therapists to make sure that they are mentally okay, and if they are 100% sure that they want to go through this.
Right.
Because it is irreversible. And that act of saying, are you sure, is in their eyes transphobic, when obviously it's not. It's a real concern.
Yep.
And a legitimate one of that.
Right. Okay. Then the Financial Times is reports that our trade figures are down. In fact, the worst since they started keeping records way back in 1955. I find this a bit strange because the City of London is supposedly in tough times still bubbling along, thriving, and that most of our exports are in the service sector. So what's gone wrong? If in fact our trading figures are not good, are people not buying what we've got to offer, or are we pushing it in the wrong places or in the wrong time?
I think I know one of the reasons why we aren't being able to trade things, because there's nothing for us to trade that no one else has. We have oil. Other places have oil. We have so many natural resources. Other places have lots of natural resources. We don't have anything that's exclusive to this country. So there's nothing particularly to be exported. Plus, what with this country having all like minimum wage laws, all sorts of like bureaucratic things, laws in place, it drives the prices up. And people are like, well, I can get it somewhere else for cheaper. So that's why we don't export things.
Yeah.
Because of the laws and regulations.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go and play one of our videos It's a bit long, but we can always cut it off if things happen, and if Melissa comes in from New York in the middle of it. I want to have a look at the desktop.
Scroll down more.
I have to scroll down a little bit further.
Do you mean to have a look?
Yeah.
All right, you continue talking, and whilst I can find something.
I can what?
You continue talking whilst I'm looking for stuff.
The boss is in charge this morning. I'm to continue talking. Let me just tell you what Patina is all about. And that is, it's a coming of age, as it were, for school children in Lewis, who throughout the year work on an arts project designed for exhibition. In other words, we are to take a look at it. And they parade from about 12 o'clock until 2 o'clock before going down and having whoop-de-doo in the paddock. This year is a return because we haven't had it for 2 years. It is very, very colourful, and the kids are really very, very inventive. And we're very pleased that we can actually bring you a bit of the parade. It goes past our particular location, which is the White Hart. And we'll. Well, I say there's a.
Dad, sorry.
It's all right. So we will be looking at that and bringing you the. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're into children or not. The fact is, it is a colourful pageant, and it's very well done. And the people that are in it, I've dealt with them before. They are dedicated to making sure that this is.
Okay, my bad. I've lost everything now. I just.
Well done.
I don't know.
I do it too.
There are so many files on this.
Yes.
You really need a proper, like
absolutely,
a junk
yeah.
folder.
Right. Okay. This PC, and can we have the desktop? Oh, we got the desktop. All right. Let's go to.
Which one would it be? Wednesday?
No, it should be amongst those. Go down a bit further.
On here?
Yeah, on there.
There's nothing. This is all.
Oh, that's all. That is it. We're on Wednesday, not on the desktop. Get to the desktop, Popper. Ooh, this is right. Okay, now go down.
This is everything.
Right. Okay. I don't know.
One of the videos being daily programs.
Daily programs, we'll try. Yes, there we are. Let's do output 12 to begin with, and then we'll go on to ready for Mirador.
I don't think that's the right one because that's length 10 seconds.
Oh, right. In that case, go to ready for Mirador. And before we start it, let me explain what we're about to look at. I hope, because I had a discussion yesterday with part of our team, is that we are ready to start to go back international. Mirador Television was intended to be both local and international. The whole idea was that we would make programs and discuss things which would be of interest not only to our citizens here, but also to citizens around the world. And also that we would show stuff happening around the world that would bring in ideas and thoughts and be able to show here that would be of interest to us. And in doing that, we actually established a streaming service that took us everywhere. Mirador, strangely enough, just before lockdown, was available to billions and billions and billions of viewers. Now, be careful, we didn't have billions of viewers, but we did have the gateway to good morning. and we can. Yeah, Max, do you mind making way for Stephen?
Let's pull a chair
And
in.
yes,
Take this one.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Mirador was intended to be a link between ourselves and the rest of the world, and hopefully we will be getting back to the idea that we can broadcast to many parts of the world. We're going to do it a bit at a time rather than wham bam. Thank you, ma'am. But for the moment, is in many ways worrying about what is local, and our expert, who really, in many ways, does know, has the. Come on, Stephen. I know that you're terribly modest, but if anybody has the
I
finger.
won't know much at the moment because I realise I've just left the paper in the newsagents.
Oh dear.
Excuse me, I'll be back.
You're going to go and get the paper. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, another one with a different point of view.
All right. So I'm glad that Stephen is in here this morning, because if anybody has got the finger on the pulse of Lewis, it's Stephen Catlin. Stephen has been, many of us remember when Stephen had the sweet shop on the high street. Catlin's was a place where a lot of people would go in, and it was he kept it deliberately small, so that you went in and you ordered. And my late wife loved this as a Canadian, is a quarter of this and a quarter of that in terms of the sweets, and they came out of nice bottles. And the rapacious landlords that are destroying the high street anyway rapaced him out of business, and he then became a. You want to try and right?
No, I'm just trying to get that off the table.
Yeah, all right, okay. Stephen then became a councillor, and he was with the district council and the local council. Now, when everything got all mixed up with Rainbow Warriors standing this time and aiming for election, some of the independents who had been so very good bit the dust, at least on Lewis District Council, and Stephen was one of them. And what a sad loss it was. But nonetheless, he remained a town councillor, and he has just relinquished the reins of being mayor. Now, Stephen says, okay, we don't have that sort of influence. But the town council, increasingly, as the district council, has proved to be a complete utter loss and has moved itself out of the town and gone to Eastbourne, is the town council has an opportunity to become increasingly influential. The important thing is it needs leadership, and that would come from the mayor. And Stephen, in his year as mayor, has proved that theory, if it is theory, is correct. You get a good leader, and suddenly your influence grows. Now, he's cast down an eye down because he's a very modest man, but that is who he is. He is a leader in the first order. He's done a marvelous job as mayor for the last year, and particularly with COVID and so on and so forth. But I am glad that we've got him back on our team, because if anybody knows what's happening in this town, it's Stephen. So, Stephen.
Well,
right,
that's
what's happening.
Very kind of you. I know a lot, most of which I can't really say because things are ongoing and one must be very careful not to prejudice the outcome by stirring the pot a little too well. But those of you in Lewis, Ringmer, Chailey and Newark who have bought this morning's Sussex Express will see that on the front page it says, "We'll fight this. Tenants at Lewis bus station were stunned to receive a notice to quit this week. Generator Group hopes to demolish the station and redevelop the site, but the controversial plan has yet to be approved." However, when we turn to the full story on page 5, the bus companies have not been given notice, and I must make that perfectly clear. It will still serve at present as the bus interchange. The tenants who have been given notice, according to this report, are Zoo Cafe, which has been given, I understand, 3 months' notice, but also the artists in residence there have also been given notice. What this does not make clear is that the owners of the building, the generator group, are concerned about the lack of fire doors and other things affecting the internal use of the building. And that, I understand, is the reason for the notice. But I can stress not firmly enough that the bus interchange is still there and will be, I hope, until the planning application is determined, one way or the other.
Well, Stephen, taking a liberal look at some of the comments when this issue first came to light, is there are a lot of people that talked about the architecture and so on. The architecture has no influence whatsoever on the bus interchange, does it?
No, but it is one could say one of the best sites in the town suitable for such an interchange. There are one or two alternatives which I understand are being considered. And also, the bus station wasn't built until approximately 1958. What happened to Lewes before then? It was the last building job undertaken by Ringmer Building Works, which was founded by Christie to give work to the people around Ringmer and Glyne. So it was done. I'm given to understand it was actually built on sand. So there are problems with subsidence. And you will see the odd hairline crack up the building. But I cannot stress too much. Lewes District Council agreed to the Town Council's request to have it listed as an asset of community value. That is one step. We're still waiting to hear from English Heritage or the Secretary of State about the listed building status, which the 20th Century Society advocated. We don't know. It's in a state of flux, and it would be foolish to say anything other than what one knows for certain. So forgive me, I can't really be drawn any more on that.
Okay. Well, if I may say so, your great debating partner is waiting in the wings. She can't wait to join you. Melissa Conti in New York was over here and spent a lot of time with Stephen. The two of them have a love-hate relationship. They love one another dearly, but by God, when they start to debate, are they feisty. So here she is. Add to the stream. Good morning, Melissa.
Melissa, how nice.
Quite an introduction, Keith. Thank you. Good morning. I have no hatred at all of Stephen. Stephen's one of my favorite people, as you are as well, Mr. Keith.
Well, how sweet.
Well, that's about all the sweet you're going to get this morning. So.
Yes, too much sweet.
My coffee.
Too much sweeter leads to conceit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just not used to it.
But I just want to read to you a little item, if I may, not really political, which I found yesterday in a column called Jewish Humor. And it says, old Morty Zimmerman had a serious hearing problem for years. He went to the doctor, and the doctor was able to have him fitted for a set of hearing aids that miraculously allowed Morty to hear again perfectly. Monty went back a month later to the doctor, and the doctor said, your hearing function is nearly 100%. Your family must be really pleased that you can hear again. Morty replied, I haven't told my family yet. I just sit around and listen to their conversations. I've changed my will 3 times.
Lovely.
There we are.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to note a jibe from Rab in Parliament about Rayner on the Labour front bench responding to a jibe. He was jibing her for having been to the opera. And her response was this: "My advice to the Deputy Prime Minister is to cut out the snobbery and brush up on his opera. The Marriage of Figaro is the story of a working class woman who gets the better of a privileged but dim-witted villain." Yabu sucks.
Splendid. Now, Melissa, I don't know whether Stephen knows, and if he's around, I hope he would join us. But
I'm here.
No, on Monday it is Independence Day.
Yes, I know that.
And
It is when
Melissa,
we gave the colonies their freedom. They
absolutely.
still seem tied to us with some umbilical cord, and I don't know whether we are a colony of America.
Yes, you are.
Well, thank you so much. Would you like to go now? Two countries, who said that? Probably Churchill. 2 countries separated by a common language.
Yes, that's right. Two great nations, I think he said. 2 great nations separated by a common language. And it's strange you should say that, because Melissa and I, many years ago, worked on a transcontinental, trans-ocean, I suppose, business program. And we were always having this business of what was a cookie and what was a biscuit, and what was a chip and what was a French fry. And that came up regularly. In the end, we did several programs on it. And I remember standing in the West End in a fish shop, trying hard to explain what a French fry wasn't and what a chip was. So the language factor got really hot and heavy sometimes between us. However, on Monday...
Yeah, those are very controversial subjects, Keith.
Melissa and Suzanne will be with us. And if you're wandering through, Stephen, we would love to see you, because we're going to try hard to celebrate just a little bit the mere fact that, of course, this hotel was part of the American independence function. And also, it is an important day for Americans. So it gives us an opportunity to have a little bit of a theme on Monday. And with the really good people that we have in the States, that it can be a special program. So that's what's happening on Monday. What's happening today is that already they've started to snipe at one another. So, Melissa, Stephen, let's have some chat from you.
Well, sniping isn't really the word, is it, Melissa?
Well, see, you know what I've done. I've written a little note to myself: remain calm. Because if you start talking to me about American politics, it's all over.
Well, I think American politics is all over, isn't it? Pretty much as British politics are. It's an odd situation, and I find it bizarre that every time there's a bit of rumpus blowing up here in England, our Prime Minister seems to find much merit in going to another country and defending them. It's a difficult one for me to deal with, and it's just like history itself, really, isn't it? At the moment, it's one dumb thing after another.
Yeah, that would definitely sum it up here.
So
I'm trying to remain calm. That's why I'm not speaking too much. Any questions, John?
I'm not doing it all myself. I have one question for Keith in this. Really, it is time for that coffee. I don't get much out of life, but the coffee at the White Hart is okay.
Max, would you be kind enough to see if the lovely Jane will bring in some coffee for Stephen?
How do you like your coffee?
It's black, just black. No sugar, no milk, nothing.
I like that. That's exactly what's in this cup.
Well, what's
No
the point in having coffee if you then put cold milk in it and sweeten
Right.
it. The whole thing
But then
is,
it's no longer hot coffee.
well, that's
And
right.
it's no longer coffee, really. It's just milk and sugar.
Let's get the caffeine.
Yes.
That's what I need at the beginning of the
Yeah,
day. But
that's
I'll
right.
be honest and say, come 6 o'clock in the evening, the switch is to decaf, just to make sure I sleep. And as you can see, Melissa, I get an awful lot of beauty sleep.
Yes,
I don't know. I
Just
don't know where it goes from when I wake up to I suddenly appear down here, but it starts off that way.
Actually, I am a next door neighbour to Stephen, and the other people in the complex in which we live have been complaining because we've been snoring in unison.
Oh, I didn't know that. What I did want to be very thankful to you for is for having your volume up. It saves me having to put my television or radio.
It's because I fall asleep in front of it.
Well, that's what it's for, isn't it?
I suppose so. Right. One of the things that is this morning is that something that Max is an expert on, and that is that Theresa May has told Boris to leave off anything to do with transgender
Conversion therapy.
Yes.
That's it. Here it is on the smallest paper with any merit. The I. Theresa May urges Johnson to ban trans conversion therapy.
Come on, Jane, come on in. Here's a lovely Jane. Always here. She makes coming in here an absolute joy. She's always smiling and wonderful. And not
That's
only
because
that,
she knows what's in the coffee.
She lays out the studio for us as well. It's remarkable. Well done.
I must tell you something about this Theresa May battle, but not about her. There is a church in Lewis that does try to preach about conversion therapy. And a friend of mine went there regularly. And a friend of his who identified as gay was being told how wrong it was. And the church fixed him up with a girlfriend. He went with her. She then accused him of rape, and he spent 6 months in Lewis prison. Now, that is one of the dangers of overzealousness. And I'm not sure that it is right in these allegedly enlightened times. It's a difficult problem. And just because LGBT people may not conform to this particular church's idea of what is right, does not mean that in the eyes of the one almighty creator of the universe, they're wrong. Do we not understand tolerance? Perhaps we don't. Perhaps the political situation in both our countries, Melissa, is such that tolerance and understanding are two words we no longer appreciate being in the lexicon. You've suddenly gone quiet. Is it a note to me or to yourself?
Remain calm.
Well, if
You're going to
only
get me started, aren't you?
Oh no, it's just a thing that concerned me. There is so much furore about this subject, but nothing about how we deal with international problems, nothing about how we deal with the terrible state of economies, work, and people's inability to earn enough to eat. That I really think it's time to remind people that stop worrying about the sawdust in your neighbor's eye when there is a plank in your own.
That's a perfect description of it. It really is not my business what you do in your bedroom. And if I do make it my business, there's something wrong with me. We have other things to do. Churches should be spreading love and care and kindness. That's what they're supposed to do. That's it.
Yeah.
Love your neighbor as yourself. It was simple. That's it. Done.
I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
There was,
And if you want to take that apart, that's ridiculous.
well, I don't think one can. And anyway, one shouldn't. I went some years ago to an Easter Good Friday service at one of the churches in Lewis, just to see what they did. And I was astonished to hear a prayer from the pulpit for the perfidious Jew. And when I left, I was talking to the priest in charge. And I said, that really can't be necessary, can it, Father? After all, you will surely know the doggerel that goes, how odd of God to choose the Jews. And he nodded wisely. And I said, but you don't know the second bit, do you? And he looked blankly. And I said, because it continues, but not as odd as those who spurn the Jews. I must get this right, but not as odd as those who have a Jewish God, yet spurn the Jews. And I went back the following year to see what they'd made of my odd words of wisdom, more odd than wise, perhaps. And they indeed dropped that prayer for the perfidious Jew and prayed instead for God's first chosen people, the Jews. So I thought I'd done my little bit to
a result.
Not so much ruffle feathers, but to disrupt cassocks.
Well, since I know the gentleman concerned, I know that would have been a very interesting conversation. Right, Melissa, Stephen raises a very good point, which is really both locally and nationally, and I think internationally, although this is where I'd like your viewpoint, is that I say a plague on the 650 members of Parliament that we've got in Westminster, because they are still totally taken up with an iced cake at Christmas, when we have more problems, social problems, economic problems, even military problems, than you can shake a stick at. And as Stephen says, where is the mention of them? Nobody is paying attention to that, or it would appear so. What about the states?
Well, we do have a looming recession, but I don't know that there's much that we can do about that. It may not be quite as difficult. It depends on the economist you speak to. But, we've got that problem. We've got debt problems. Of course, we've got our high gas prices problem. That's just, we're just spoiled here. And yeah, we've got the problem with Russia. But we have a problem in this country. We've just, it's just always been a very divided country, far more so now. It's very sad to watch. And it's a little bit, it can be a little bit frightening for somebody who cares very much about our country. There's just always been this divide. And it just seems to be getting wider and wider. Like I said, I'm trying to be very careful with my words, because I would like to not have them be as so divisive, since if I'm preaching unity, try not to be divisive myself. There's just a lot of turmoil in my country. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, really. If you have a specific question, I can address it, but yeah, that's the issue.
Well, can I ask?
We have our own problems right now, and this is one of the concerns, is that we are so embroiled in our own little problems that we're not looking outside of ourselves and out of the potential issues that we're going to have. I don't know, World War III, just to make a mention of it, is looking more and more likely. But we're so busy here worrying about what's going on in someone's bedroom. I don't care, I just don't. You got to do what you got to do. You got to follow your conscience. It's not my business. Your personal choices are not my business. If you need some help, you want me to help you out, I'll do what I can to help you out, but that's just not my business. The government is just being very heavy-handed. It's frightening. What else are you going to legislate? What else are you going to tell us we can't do? They're talking about, reinstating these bans on same-sex sex. considering it to be sodomy, arresting people in their bedrooms. Well, that's frightening. I forget about Roe versus Wade. I mean, that's, a little scary in itself. But yeah, you're talking about the end of gay marriage in a country. You gave people the right to love who they want to love, and then you're going to take it away. I'm not understanding that. Why? What do you care? Why do you care so much what someone does in their bedroom? Why? Are you having problems in your own? I mean, come on, fix your own problems. Okay. There you go. I'm trying to remain calm. Remain calm. Remain calm.
There is a question I would like to ask. Gordon Brown has said to the press that Britain is at war with America over Ireland and Brexit. Now, going back many years, was it 1921? There was a plebiscite in Ireland, and what is known as the Six Counties, although it's more than that, in the north decided to remain with England as a temporary measure. 100 years ago, that ruling made then is still considered a temporary measure, and it's leading to all sorts of problems with government central in London and the EU. The government central is trying to break a protocol which was agreed to enable us to leave. And Gordon Brown is saying that Britain is at war with America over Ireland and Brexit. With the greatest respect to you, Melissa, who perhaps should actually be at the helm in America for your balanced views, what the hell is our problem with Northern Ireland and the rest of Europe to do with America, unless, of course, America still chooses to see us as one of their states? Nice to have the position reversed, but it's got nothing to do with any other country. It is a British problem.
Gordon, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We have so many other problems. We just don't care. We're not worried or thinking about that. We're not.
Well, I'm so glad to hear it.
We're not at war with you. We like you. We like you. We love the Queen. Okay? We are not at war with you. We like you. Okay? There you go, Gordon. Settled. Done. Thank you.
I'll try to speak in the tones which you appreciate so much. But I'm pleased to hear that, Melissa. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you lose your cool calmness. You need to read it, Melissa, not me.
We're just, Stephen, we're just not. We don't, we're in flames right now. It would be like, the house is in flames and someone's worried about watering the lawn. We're in flames right now. If you were to ask someone that on the street, they would be like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's a psychiatric hospital down the road. Go check yourself. We don't care. We like you. There you go. I've said it.
Well, as long as you
U.S. spokeswoman.
There will be world harmony.
One of the things I find quite interesting, though, is that we talk in terms of federations, right? There's the United States, there's Canada, there's now the United Kingdom. But one of the federations that don't seem to have made much noise as a federation over what's happening at the moment, but individual states have, is the European Union. That Germany has got very excited about its relationship in terms of energy with Russia. Macron continues to ponce around and have no idea what he's going to say next. The northern states have a different viewpoint, but they don't seem to be thinking as one. Now, is that just me worrying about the ice cake, Stephen, or am I do have some sort of?
Well, Keith, The iced cake, depending on the thickness of the icing, of course, is just the tip of the iceberg. That is a little chink into the disarray which pervades government central. But I did note in a review of news items last night that the 19 Republican states in America do produce 44% of America's carbon dioxide and other pollutants in the atmosphere. And rather like our own beloved Boris wanting to reopen coal mining in Cleveland, they seem determined to carry on. And really, with that sort of disunity around the world, how can we ever hope to achieve the carbon footprint reduction everyone is supposed to be looking for? Why can't we work together? Why must we always come up with opposing measures? I just don't understand it.
I'm going to be very honest with you that this is a human thing. It really is not going to take center stage, and people are not going to care for it until there's a disaster. Until
And
all of a
maybe-
sudden you're going to start to see a crazy hurricane season, or you're going to see incredible, weather, events. Then people will start to see. But it really is going to take a calamity before people actually do anything, and then I guess it's too late.
I was going to say, by which time it may well be too late. Last year, I was asked to open a climate hub fair in Lewis, and I issued the warning then that the world clock is at 5 minutes to midnight. Tomorrow will be too late. We must start seeing some achievement in the way forward on this today. People clapped politely, and then I went home.
But what I say is that for a decade and a half, or a decade and 3/4, we have been fat and sassy as just individual citizens. Credit was easy, food was easy, having a second car was easy, even buying a house was easy. And that all changed 2 or 3 years ago. But I don't think that the psyche has changed with it. People still think that we can have this nice way of life that we've had for 15 years, and that was going to continue here on in. And it's not just COVID and lockdown, but it's also some of the things catching up with us, such as climate change, such as worrying about inclusion and all the rest of the variables. In other words, life is changing, but our mental attitude is not.
That is right. We have learned nothing from the financial problems of 2008. People seem to think that they can spend their way out of a recession. You're not going to be able to spend your way out of this one, I believe, Melissa, and it needs a more drastic approach. Farmers in this country are seeing crops withering in the ground because we are not able to get the seasonal workers from the EU, which we relied on to do the work, which was obviously considered by many unemployed in England as beneath them. We really have to
Like you're
address...
speaking about the United States.
Pardon?
Sounds like you're speaking about the United States.
Well, you didn't know I was a universal. I'm universal, Melissa. Perhaps, in my wildest
Well, perhaps
dreams.
what Melissa is saying is, in what you just said, is you could be describing the United States.
Yes,
Yeah.
I take that point. And all these people, and we still can't come up with a solution. I really don't understand. And I can't really think outside my own life and how I'm going to manage to get by. And it may appear selfish, but since no one else seems to be thinking of other people, I regret I am not alone.
Yeah.
I have some news about health. Here's a sign that perhaps the National Health Service is beginning to work on its backlog, or perhaps more than log, its back jungle. I'm having to see a consultant surgeon because of the extremely high dosage of radiotherapy I received. I now have a problem with this jaw. And while in my wildest dreams I see myself as a reincarnation of the fiend without a face, I did get a phone call from the NHS in Brighton yesterday telling me that I have an appointment with the consultant surgeon to examine this very problem on Sunday, the 10th of July. The fact that their surgeons are working Sundays and seeing people, and Saturdays also, is a sign that, at least in Brighton, they are trying to get enough people in to cope with the backlog which is building up. I won't say I'm encouraged because I don't know quite what he has in mind for my jaw, but at least one feels that progress is being made in spite of all the obstacles.
I'm just going to just speak a little bit about that subject of healthcare. So here's a scenario. Imagine if you decide, or you get laid off, you decide that you want to change jobs or leave your job, you won't have healthcare. Imagine. Or, well, you could have healthcare, but you'd have to pay almost $2,000 a month in insurance premiums to be covered. That's how things are here. So until you're 65, then you can get on our national health care service called Medicare, or if you're very, very poor and have assets of less than $10,000. In between, you have to be employed by someone who offers insurance, and if you're not, then you have to pay almost $2,000 a month for insurance premiums. Could you imagine? I consider both of you very lucky. I really do. We have a very big problem. We have an ACA that was enacted by Obama, the CARE Act, they call it Obamacare, that's tried to bridge the gap. But we don't have a national health service here where everyone's covered. We don't have that. So you do have people here with no insurance. I had no insurance for 2 years. I was frightened that I would end up with a cancer diagnosis or something worse, or have an emergency and be out thousands and thousands of dollars and have to declare bankruptcy. So, you know, it's all relative.
Well, the problem with defunding the National Health Service here is something I don't understand, because while I was in paid employment, I had deducted from my weekly wage a contribution for NHI, National Health Insurance, that also went into a pot, I naively thought, for my old age pension. Such is the situation now, because the baby boomers are really all my age and over. There are fewer people working to pay into the pot. And even when I was in work, the pot, my deductions from my wages were not going into a little pot marked for Stephen when he is ill or old. Mm-hmm. They were being spent on maintaining the service then. So those who are working now,
yes,
their contributions are not being marked exclusively for their use. They are going into a common fund to support what I think America has too.
Right. We have the same system, Social Security, correct. It's the concept of the young helping the old. That's what it is. It's not a pension. It's not a savings plan. that people mistakenly think that it is. The system it's still sound. I know there are dire calls. Oh my God, by 2035, we're going to go bankrupt. No, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to raise the payroll tax and raise the tax on people, maybe by 1 or 2%. That's just the way it is, because the baby boomers are numerous. There's so many people taking and fewer people giving, into the system, the younger people. So we're just going to have to deal with that for a while. But it's not a bad system. People aren't saving enough for retirement to be able to live. You don't want elderly in the streets. Is that, I mean, that can't be the answer. So the answer is we're just going to have to deal with a little bit of pain. What am I going to tell you? Listen, I'm just as spoiled as the rest of you. So, but I don't mind paying for the elderly. I'm sorry, I don't. I never did.
Well, send any spare cash for the elderly here. Now, it's very wise words, and you are absolutely right to sound and be so sincere about this. This is another problem that is being buried in the sand on the shores, both sides of the Atlantic. And we need a serious way forward.
We need leadership. I mean, well, in this country, there's a void. I'm sorry, Joe, but you're a little sleepy. Once again, it's almost like sometimes with our president, the house is burning and he's out watering the lawn. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're not leading. We don't know what you're doing.
When we have,
we'll take a nap. Please.
When we have, as we do in this country, a Chancellor of the Exchequer whose personal wealth is more money than a lot of people will see collectively in their lifetime, there is becoming a feeling that government central is out of touch and is totally unaware of the realities of life, not at the bottom of the ladder. The problems start when you're halfway down the ladder. And those at the top carry on with their living because they're all right. The people they have been elected to govern are very far from all right, and a little more understanding, a little more people in government perhaps from the grassroots of both our countries would be a good thing. My fear is that one senses in the fair town of Lewis a couple of areas where people are almost frightened to raise their voice. People who are frightened even to vote because they now think their opinion is worthless. And everybody's voice must count. Everybody's voice must be raised until these problems are addressed. You may think that's wishful thinking, but round about the time of the next election, you may well see me with a pronged fork, sticking it in people and getting some reaction. It may be, Yabu sucks, get out the way. But at least it will be a reaction.
Right. Well, there's some good stuff there. They haven't fought anywhere near as much as I thought. But Stephen, I wonder if we could just take a look and be a bit parochial, because then I'm going to get Melissa to be parochial. What sort of events? Because somehow I think that the things that are happening in Lewis have lost some sort of face, if you like, because of all these other things. But we are actually slowly getting back to sort of some normality in terms of things happening. What sort of things are happening that you would say to people, watch out for?
We are getting back. And today, at 10 to 1 approximately, coming by this hotel, watched by some councillors on the steps of the court opposite, will be the well-established Patina Moving On Parade. This is a parade of pupils in their last year at primary schools, celebrating the fact that when they go back to school, it will be in a senior school. And they come up with all sorts of costumes, and it is the high street will be lined with people watching this spectacle as they celebrate moving on.
Just if I can interrupt there, if we can give a plug for Mirador, because we will be televising that from the balcony of this hotel. So I hope that apart from anybody who is doing it on the social media, that they can tune into Mirador, and we will be looking down on the parade.
We have had a series of very good concerts. The Lewis Music Group is busy performing again and has a Sondheim program. But you will notice, Keith, that on the buses around the town, the buses are not overloaded, let's put it that way. People of our generation who really should be careful. I often see myself on the lower deck of the bus as the only one wearing a mask. It's not one for Guy Fawkes, but I'm tempted to do that at times. We have not recovered from lockdown. Lockdown is often given as the reason for our present economic situation, but it isn't. That's just another excuse. But talking about Lewis, you will have seen perhaps where the Alliance and Leicester and later the parking shop were. There is yet another shop premises with a rental of about 28,000 per annum, with a licensing application to be a wine bar and a shop. This is an indication of how Lewis society is changing. And it was one of the national park's stated policies that it wished to preserve the Lewis community. The dearth of shops on the high street and the emergence of cafes and restaurants highlights the problem. Lewis is becoming even more of a cafe society. And my fear is that ordinary people, pretty much like myself, young adults in that category, will have nowhere to live in this town, and more importantly, nowhere to work. I had a discussion with the planning authority for this area about a site zoned as industrial, covers Brooks Road and even Southdown Road, but they've already allowed big housing estate to go up at Southdown Road. And I said, for goodness sake, we've got to have some industrial land zoned, because while we will never see one employer with a workforce of 600, such as Baxter's, the famous Lewis printer, had, we could on Brooks Road have 20 small, clean industrial units, electrical engineering, computer engineering, each employing, say, 20, which would give us a nucleus of a workforce of 400 in the middle of the town. District Council, who is responsible for housing, seem to think that Lewis doesn't need social rents, what we used to call council housing. Yet we do. Not everyone in Lewis can afford a second home elsewhere in the county, in a village. And this is one of the things we really must start to campaign about. Rural East Sussex has villages which are dying because a lot of the homes are owned by people outside who have a weekend cottage there. So commerce and the post offices in these rural settlements declines. Excuse me. And Brighton Hove City Council is banning new build houses being sold as second homes. And I think Lewis District must begin to address that problem too. The big problem to me is the way Lewis and Eastbourne are supposed to be working together. They ain't contiguous. There is a patch of another district running at the middle. And we're two different things. Eastbourne Borough Council is 4 square miles of urbanism. Lewis District is 113 square miles of mainly rural. And one chain of thought does not suit both areas. We're in trouble. People are complaining to me about hanging on the phone for 3 hours at district before they get an answer. Other people are complaining that they leave messages for senior officers on the senior officers answering system, none of which receives a reply. So there is general dissatisfaction, and it needs to be addressed. I've gone way off subject, Keith. I'm surprised you haven't woken from your slumber
I've been
to tell me.
I've been carefully listening with my eyes closed here. Melissa, we always think of New York as being a seething, throbbing, 24-hour-a-day metropolis. Is that a fair view still of it? And what sort of things are happening? Because I know, for instance, the Hudson River and the bays and so on have always had magnificent celebrations of one sort or another. Are those there still? Are they coming back? What have you got to look forward to in New York?
Yeah, we have the celebrations that we have to look forward to. We're going to have the fireworks displays, although a lot of the displays, they happen over the weekend, but there's thunderstorms and rain coming tomorrow. So that might dampen the enthusiasm a little bit.
Pretty much like Lewis's Jubilee celebrations, where the fireworks were heightened by the most magnificent display of lightning. Obviously,
of lightning, yeah. I think, we saw that. Yeah, we saw that. But everything else was lovely. That fair, I love that fair. I got to ride in a teacup. It's so exciting. And got to meet the mayor and got to see you. Unfortunately, didn't get to see you, Keith. But my next trip, we'll come and see you. But New York, a thriving metropolis. New York's always going to be New York. And we're going under some tough times right now. Honestly, people don't want to come back to work. So a lot of the local shops have gone, they've gone bankrupt, or there's just this shift. We have to see how things work out. There's a lot of construction going on. There's also a lot of crime. We've got some problems, a lot of problems going on in New York, but hopefully, it's such a valuable place that they'll have to, eventually we'll come out of it, but it's going to be different. It'll be different. So yeah, they're having problems with rent control, a lot of the things that you're talking about. But it's, you don't have the commuters that you have. They don't come in, so they don't frequent the shops. Yeah. We're working remotely part of the week. So businesses can't stay open if they're just getting money part of the week.
Sure.
So there's a real changing landscape. I actually went out yesterday to Fifth Avenue, which is, the very posh shops. I just go for a walk. And I was just so surprised at stores that have gone away, and there's new stores coming in, some wacky stores. I'm like, wacky fashion. I'm like, I can't go there. But there's some nice shops coming in, but it's definitely in a state of flux right now, New York City. But yeah, we're looking forward to the celebrations. That'll be a nice highlight, We'll have some fun. And we'll see you Monday.
Yes, and I hope that you are going to give us I can't remember if it's Uncle Joe or Cousin Joe.
Cousin Joe is started.
Well, not quite. No, this Uncle Joe is not started. I assure you, he is a character and a half. And a couple of years ago, Melissa, I think it was Thanksgiving, took her cameras into her own family on their Thanksgiving celebrations, and Uncle Joe was a hoot, absolute hoot. And you say you love us. Uncle Joe loved every bit of us, but he was determined that we would be integrated into his version of New York.
Yeah, the family gatherings are a lot of fun. They've been curtailed because of COVID, sadly. But the younger part of the family, because the older part of the family, they're nervous about COVID. They're nervous about being around too many people. So hopefully slowly we'll all get back together. But the younger people, we all like to have a good time, the younger part of the family. We've got cousin Billy. Oh, he's so funny. He recently had his 60th birthday. That was fun. So yeah, Connor and Billy always have to have a drink together. It's always fun. Connor doesn't really drink because he's going into the military and he's been training. So, but it was fun. As I have a great family. Very, very
Connor might not drink, but he loves brewing it, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does. He's actually okay. Well, let's get a little brewing update. We've got a lager going in the corner of my kitchen. Well, actually, I think he brought the fermenter into his room because it's cooler in there. I like it warmer. But yeah, we just recently brewed a lager. He is planning to brew another British bitter and succeed this time. And so I'm planning to come visit in December. So I may be bringing a couple of bottles.
Oh, yes.
Bottles of Connor's bitter.
Yes.
Hopefully it's not too bitter. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can get the master brewer, Miles Jenner of Harvey's, who inspired Connor to try to make this, to give his opinion on it. That will be interesting indeed. I think.
Yes.
Oh, Keith, but we do have, Keith and Stephen, we do have some questions for Miles. I'll send them to you. They're about hops and yeast and temperature. I don't know. I don't understand any of it really. But if you can possibly ask Miles some of those questions, so Connor can make a brew that doesn't taste like nail polish remover, that'd be great.
Damn, I was quite getting used to the taste of that. I can't afford beer, but the polish remover goes a treat.
Melissa, thank you as always for getting out of bed at some ungodly hour to join us. Stephen and I get out at the more gentlemanly hour to be here to meet you. Incidentally, Nick Cortella-Bird, who you may recall meeting when you were here the first time, sends greetings and says hello.
Tell them I say hello. Hopefully I'll see everyone in December.
He most certainly, I think, will hear you in saying that. Thanks very much for being with us, Melissa.
Thank you, gentlemen. American flag.
If I may say so, is the note to yourself is keep calm. Is by all means write it, but don't actually follow it, because when you and Stephen start to get passionate, then all sorts of things come out which give us some insight of what the hell's happening in the world.
It's a good thing a few miles separate us, because I think when we get passionate, no one can predict the result. Connor, beware.
I think what's so lovely is we agree, yet we're still, well, we're not arguing really.
No, we're agreeing from different points of view, but we are
passionately agreeing. Yes.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Have a good day, gentlemen. We'll see you Monday.
We will see you Monday. We look forward to that. And hopefully Stephen will pop by while we're having our whoop-de-doo.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
All the best, Melissa. God bless.
Right. Stephen, if I may say so, this little combination of you and Melissa is great on a Friday. And I know that you can't always commit to coming on a Friday, and she can't always commit. But generally speaking, the two of you together actually, by the time that you finish, raise some of the issues which tend to go over the heads of a lot of people, but are important to discuss and to realize that here are people sitting in New York and people sitting in Hollywood, in Lewis, having very similar feelings and thoughts and problems.
It's interesting that the universal concerns are the same, and that makes it even more puzzling as to why there is not a solution. It's if people, both sides of the Atlantic, feel like this about the problems in their towns or cities, why aren't they articulated enough for respective governments to understand, unless respective governments have all got earmuffs that filter out criticism.
Well, I think that Melissa actually said the same thing that I think you're saying, and I most certainly say, is our big problem at the moment is we lack leadership. And as long as we lack leadership, things won't get done, no matter how much they're articulated.
That is true. There are so many things coming to deflect attention from the biggest problem, from the elephant in the room. But Keith, I must get going. I think you may have heard there have been some quite helpful people in this town cheerfully destroying the flower beds down by Fuego. A whole planting has gone. Fortunately, someone has generously donated some plants that are surplus to their requirements. I must do some pruning today. Tomorrow, if you find yourself around the Friars Walk area and the secret garden, you may well stumble upon a very frustrated gardener.
Oh, dear.
I will be there as well.
And for those of you who are new to Lewis or don't know what Stephen is talking about, is Stephen actually voluntarily looks after gardens, smaller gardens around the town. One of them is a beautiful little garden that he started called the Secret Garden. And if you are passing that, which is in Friars Walk, take a look in. It is well worth taking just a peek.
It is the stretch of ground, Keith, between the Friends Meeting House and the All Saints Churchyard. And I have to say, when I was waddling around seeing what needed doing yesterday, 2 or 3 people were stopping and taking photos of it.
Yes, it's beautiful. And I'm sorry that we've got the alternate people who decide to destroy.
Oh, well, a couple of perennial poppies have been pulled right out of the ground. Lilies have had their buds snapped off. One lily was detached from its bulb and just strewn in those gardens by Fuego. And I was so depressed about it, I really began to wonder why I was bothering. But then the kind and appreciative words of others give one just a little bit more encouragement. They are green spots in the town, and we do need them.
And you have great tenacity, and that's why you bother. I think it's important that you, and I know that some of you've got a little cadre of volunteers who look after these things, and it makes the town that much prettier, and in fact, in the environment, much nicer.
I can tell you, while you're on that subject, that Mary and her gang, of which I was once a member, who do the gardens at Lewis Railway Station, are being nominated for a community award by the Southern Community Rail Partnership for their work in making Lewis Railway Station gardens again instead of overgrown rubble. And I'm all for that.
Absolutely. Yes, I am too. Every bit of green or space that is turned either green or rather more so with pretty flowers, which we've got at the moment. Max made a comment about community and getting involved in making places look beautiful, and I was able to say to him, "Yes, well, in this town, we are very fortunate, and we need to keep that up."
Yeah. Indeed, we must never forget either Ruth O'Keefe's work with her little garden scheme. And I was present at the planting of some sunflowers down at the bottom of Winterbourne Hollow, anything to brighten the town and feed the bees. Have you noticed? Perhaps you haven't, but there are not so many bees around. I have not seen so many butterflies. It's slightly worrying because without the pollinators, there ain't nothing.
Although I, from time to time, walk past one of the areas that you tend to look after, the All Saints Centre, and I quite often do see butterflies and bees and so on, because what you've left is an element of wild garden, which is, that attracts those sort of things. So hopefully, at least in your backyard, as it were, we've got the bees and the birds and the poppies and so on coming out in profusion.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I really am delighted that you maintain this, because it's an important function, but also you do it with such love and care for these things.
Keith, I have no words to express my gratitude and also disbelief in what you say. So I'm going to finish this coffee and do a bit of judicious pruning and stuff before I get ready to cheer on the parade passing by.
Indeed. And in fact, we are going to, let's see, Max, it is 2 minutes past 11. I'm going to invite Max back for final comment. Max, incidentally, Stephen came to us as simply a work experience student, and he's now working with Mirador because he's turned out to be a cracker. And I hope that you'll be seeing a lot of him because, apart from being in here with us, he'll be out and about scouting around.
Oh, good.
Well, yeah, I've been very quiet today, just letting you guys talk. But usually I have quite a bit to say.
I'm pleased to hear it, because this old guy here mustn't be allowed to hog the camera.
Absolutely not.
I'm too beautiful. And we need younger points of view. This has been one of my great things. Now COVID has finished. The town council, which is supposed to be the voice of Lewis Town, must reconnect, particularly with younger voters, younger potential voters, because the future of this town is their future, not mine. It's not Keith's.
Well, Stephen, you will be very pleased to know that this new format that we've got has got people excited. We've got Max, who is quite young, but Max is developing a program on health out of the health centre here, and he's got a chap who would be about 30. Who is joining the team to help him with that.
He's in his mid-20s.
Mid-20s, yeah. So we are moving towards younger people and doing things which I think that people need to do. But also, and I must introduce you, is Shannon, who is the one of the three receptionists here, and they're all beautiful and they're so friendly and so on. But just in chatting, I said to Shannon, "Why don't you have a go? You're lovely. You're okay," she said. And so I investigated with her anything that is of interest, and she said, "Well, I quite like gardening, so I think I'm going to put her in touch with you, and perhaps what she can do to start off with a modest program, looking at plants and so on, and discussing the sort of plants that we've got there, the sort of plants that could be in the garden, and so on and so forth." So ideas are beginning to multiply, I'm happy to say.
Good.
Yeah, and this old man can just do 1 day a week if he's permitted.
And I'm not sure we can allow even that.
Oh, well.
Max, good to see you.
It was nice to meet you.
I hope that we'll be working a bit more together.
Indeed.
But we have to inspire younger Lewis, not to go around destroying things and writing on walls, but to actually make positive contribution.
Well, one of the things with me, you'll find out eventually, I don't particularly have the views and opinions of most young people. I don't get along with a lot of my generation.
Very interesting. I didn't seem to get in well with my peers. But then when I was 12, I started to be invited by BBC and then 15 ITV to do programs for them. And I was on nearly every fortnight on what was Rediffusion's magazine program for younger adults called Tuesday Rendezvous. And one week, along with me beaming, the star guests were the Beatles.
Huh.
That was in 1963. Yeah, and then I sort of went on from there. So I won't say I was loved by my peers, despised neither, but rather treated as someone who doesn't quite belong, so they let me get on with what I was doing. I was quite happy doing that. I was writing for the local paper when I was 14. I had a weekly column doing theatre reviews. So then one's parents decided one was going to be a journalist. Well, I was for a short while on a paper in South London. We did 8 editions a week covering most of South London, but there were only 4 of us. So one of the tricks was to go out and buy Tuesday's South London Press and rewrite it, because it was the only way we could cope. The paper was sent, the copy and photographs was sent by train to West Ruislip, where the paper was printed on the Ruislip Weekly Post presses. Sometimes the guard on the train did not throw the packet of copy out at West Ruislip station. So Thursdays, I was usually the one at Ruislip writing stuff to fill in the gaps. We also had compositors who didn't quite understand. When you make up a dummy copy, you cut the flag, the logo off the front page, stick it on, show where it is to go. Sadly, the copy we cut up to make the dummy had a date line of December, and this was the following March. And no one noticed that the date line on the paper that in March was December the previous year. We didn't sell many that week. I'm going now.
Stephen, good to have you. Good to have you back. And actually, the number of viewers have said that as well. So,
all 2 of them.
Well, we've increased it to 4 now.
Good Lord.
But
I'm underwhelmed.
Well, the point is, I'm able to say 100% increase.
Yes, you're quite a spieler, really.
Bye,
man.
Nice to meet you.
Bye, Stephen.
See you.
Well, there we are. Come on back, Max, because it's important that you wrap up the show with me. I think that it's very interesting to have Stephen and Melissa because they are able to reflect what's going on in our communities, and it is amazing the samenesses between a big city like New York and a small town like Lewis, and they're able to articulate them. Right. What have you got to say for yourself as we go towards the end? Because I'm going to close us down in a minute or two, because it's 9 minutes past 11, and we do have to go and get ready for the patina.
Yes, we do. Definitely stay tuned for the patina. I will be outside filming, and we'll follow them with my camera. So you'll see 2 different perspectives, one from my phone, and you'll be filming from the balcony.
Okay. That's it for this week then. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday when it is American Independence Day. And we've got our colleagues from the States joining us and with Suzanne saying that she's going to get her son out of bed to actually cook a hamburger to celebrate from their end, and we're going to have to eat it. Toodle pip. See you. We'll see you a little later, but then with this program, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.